All right, let's jump right in. We're living in a world that is more and more being built on complex models. I'm talking about everything from climate predictions to how the economy might behave. But how do we actually know if we can trust them?
And that's a really important question to ask, right? I mean, when the output from some model is going to influence huge decisions, we absolutely can't afford for its inner workings to be a total mystery. A black box that just spits out answers with no explanation.
And that is exactly what we're going to unpack here. We're going to look at the 3 essential keys that can transform one of those opaque, questionable models into transparent, credible science. So let's get into it.
Okay, our first key is documentation. Now I know, this can sound like the boring part, kind of like homework, but it's actually the most fundamental piece of the puzzle. You gotta think of it as the blueprint for your entire scientific project. Without it, the whole thing can just fall apart.
So what are we really talking about here? Well, it's just the act of clearly writing down every single assumption, every rule, every process that makes your model do what it does. It's basically the story of why you made the choices you did and how all the pieces fit together.
And when you compare the two, the difference is, well, it's night and day. A model that isn't documented becomes a black box almost immediately, sometimes even to the person who built it. It's forgettable, and you just can't trust it. But with good documentation, it becomes transparent, you can improve it over time, and most importantly, people can trust it.
And here's the thing a lot of people miss. Documenting isn't just for everyone else, it's for you, so you don't forget those critical little details months or years down the line. But yeah, it also lets the whole scientific community understand your work, check it, and in the end, build real trust in what you found.
Okay, let's move on to our second key, and you'll see how this builds. It's collaboration. So if documentation is the blueprint, then collaboration is like assembling your expert construction crew. Nobody builds a giant skyscraper all by themselves, and the same thing is true for a really solid scientific model.
What we mean by effective collaboration is bringing together a kind of dream team. You need the theorist, who gets the deep principles, the coder, who can make the logic work perfectly, and the domain expert, who actually knows how things operate in the real world. When you get those perspectives in one room, they challenge each other and they fill in all those critical blind spots.
And the benefits are huge. This kind of teamwork naturally just speeds everything up. It sparks creative solutions you probably never think of on your own. But the real game changer is that it invites critical feedback that stress tests every single assumption, making that final model way stronger and much more relevant.
And all of that brings us perfectly to our third and final key, replication. This, my friends, is the ultimate litmus test for scientific truth. Because if your discovery is real, then other people should be able to follow your blueprint and get the exact same result.
At its heart, replication is really simple. It boils down to this question. Can somebody else, working completely on their own, take your documented model, run it using the same conditions, and get the same results? If the answer to that is yes, you've hit the gold standard for scientific credibility. So why is this such a big deal? Well, replication is how we find hidden mistakes and actually validate our findings. It's what separates a one-time fluke from a dependable scientific fact. It builds a ton of confidence and lets the entire field move forward, together, on a solid foundation.
So there we have it, our 3 keys: documentation, collaboration, and replication. But here's the real magic. They aren't separate ideas. The real power is in how they all work together, each one making the others stronger.
Just look at how this flows. It's this beautiful, powerful loop, right? You start with clear documentation, which is what makes real collaboration even possible. Your team needs that blueprint to work from. And then that collaboration produces a model that's so well built and so well documented that other researchers can actually replicate it. See? It's a virtuous cycle.
Now, the great news is you're not expected to do all of this in a vacuum. The scientific community has been building platforms specifically designed for this way of working. Tools that make sharing, talking about, and building on each other's work way easier than it's ever been.
So you have platforms like NetHub, for instance, that are literally built around these 3 pillars. They provide the tools that researchers need to do exactly what we've been talking about, to document their work, to collaborate with their teams, and to enable the replication that gives their findings real weight.
So I'll leave you with this one question to think about. As these models play a bigger and bigger role in our world, the principles of documentation, collaboration, and replication, they aren't just some nice ideas for academics. They're essential. They're safeguards. So the real question is, in a world built on models, what's the cost if we can't trust them? Can we really afford to find out?